Hey y'all, Pastor Sam here, and welcome to the Sermon Cast for First Christian Church in Hammond, Louisiana. Here at FCC Hammond, we are a gathering of Jesus followers caught up in this crazy Jesus movement seeking to bring healing and wholeness to our fractured world. We hope you find this message meaningful and encouraging. We would love to connect with you to answer any questions you might have about us, Jesus, or just life in general. How you can contact us can be found in the description below. Just remember, God loves you, we love you. May you experience grace and peace in your journey today and every day. And now, the Sermon Cast.
Morning, everyone. Morning. So today, we're going to dive into one of humanity's perhaps greatest talent, complaining. Some of us complain about the weather, some of us complain about traffic. Some of us complain about how long lines are, and some of us can manage to complain about all that and about 17 more things before we even get to breakfast. And we even see it in the 13th Psalm. Even David gets in on it when he says, how long, O Lord? But here's the surprise. This ancient holy whining isn't just about venting into the void. There's actually a rhythm to it. There's a pattern, like maybe, just maybe, something happens after the complaint. And we'll get into that today, assuming it doesn't cause too much whining along the way. We can hope.
Today's reading is Psalm 13. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I bear pain in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all day long? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep the sleep of death, and my enemy will say, I have prevailed. My foes will rejoice because I am shaken. But I trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. A word of God for our times.
How's everybody doing? Good, yes. Good weather for Father's Day. Let's hope. I don't know, weather got crazy yesterday. Wasn't it Ponchatoula? Got really bad? I know down in New Orleans it was crazy. Speaking of Father's Day, you know me with crazy little silly facts. Yeah, here's a trivia. We'll play a little trivia. What's the number one most celebrated holiday in general? Anybody know? Mother's Day. Christmas. No, Mother's Day is number 2. So Jesus, moms. You know, just for fun, you know what Father's Day is ranked? Number 19. Halloween beats us. President's Day beats us. Yeah. It's like it's what's that? Oh yeah, hey that's right. I guess we shouldn't complain about that. What? Move it to a weekday? Well, we can push that. Let's rally together and do something super important and move Father's Day to Mondays. That's what we can do. That's a good idea. It's a good idea. You know, it's funny. I was thinking about that, and then it led me to think about something that I really need to confess about, and it's important. Is that, and I hope nobody gets afraid now to talk to me, but I really don't like complaining. I struggle with it a lot. Maybe better way to say it is I struggle with complainers. I get really frustrated. I get really impatient. And and I am not proud of this, I even can develop like disdain for folks that complain. It's just, and maybe it's because there's like so many different types of complainers, you know? I like the one I like is like the campfire complainer. You know where this is going. if you ever been around that. They don't want to like fix, like if a roof's leaking, they don't want to fix the roof. They just want to complain about it leaking. You know, they just want to sit there and just complain about the water dripping on their head. I don't like it because, yeah, it's like, well, wait a minute, let's just not complain. Or we can complain why we fix it. How about that? Or it can be just redundant because you think you're getting somewhere with them and they just pull you right back to like, nope, it's still dripping on my head. And it's so frustrating sometimes, a lot of times. Or there's the broken record complainer. It's once again, it's like you can offer all these solutions, but somehow it's almost like they totally miss it. And they're just like, they'll just keep quoting the problem over and over again. It's like the same song, same verse forever and ever and ever. Amen. And there's so many more types of complainers. And I know them so very well, so very well. And I know this because of a psychological theory called projection. You know where I'm going with this? Yeah. Projection for the folks that need a little reminder, it's a defense mechanism that we do when we project our feelings or our disdain or our when we struggle with something on somebody else that we actually have a problem with about us. Or I know the fun way to say it is like whatever triggers you, it might live in you. And so I don't like complainers. I have a struggle with complainers because I am the chief offending complainer. I am top tier when it comes to complaining. I can complain about anything, and I'll sit there and circle just over and over again. Or like my favorite is when somebody will give me a solution, but I'll complain about the solution. You know, it just, does anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah. How many people are like me? Just like the chief complainers? Yeah. How many people don't like complaining? Yeah. Like, who loves complaining? Anybody? No? Peter, you're just both. You're just like, I'm the worst complainer. Well, of course, you love yourself. That's good, Peter. You should. But, that's one of the many reasons why we're doing this sermon series, because the Psalms, they just cover every single human emotion there is to have. It'll probably teach you a few even. And no matter what you're feeling or what you don't know what you feel, there's a psalm for that. So we've been going through, we just started, and learning about these psalms and what they're saying, what they can teach us, and really how can that work? It's something that's thousands of years old, can still be super applicable to where we are today. And so this week, we're going to talk about complaining, because it's in there quite a bit, actually. Specifically through the lens of the 13th Psalm. And I'm hoping we're going to see when it's over that what it'll show us, like, what do we do with complaining exactly? And maybe a better way to look at it is, what can it do for us and in us? And so we'll start with the same pattern of, like, who wrote this? A lot of people think David wrote it, King David. So many Psalms are attributed to him. And really it doesn't matter if he wrote it or not, because anybody could have wrote that. If you've been alive for any stretch of time, you could write that psalm. It's so ubiquitous to the human experience. And like many psalms, we don't know the exact date when it was written. If we go with the whole, David wrote it, it could have been somewhere around when we read in 1 Samuel when he was running away from King Saul, or it could be in 2 Samuel where he's dealing with his son, Absalom, rebelling against him. Boy, what a Father's Day that might have been. But we think it was probably written around the 10th century BCE. But like so many Psalms, we don't know, but we do know that it was used quite a bit in the Hebrew tradition, especially during the exiles, the many exiles they struggled through, or just the general communal suffering that they had. The psalm, it's not called a complaining psalm. The fancy word is because, we have to make complaining sound fancy. Lament. It is, and it's true. It's a passionate expression of grief and sorrow, but it's a complaining psalm. It complains. But it's interesting, it makes it a little bit prettier because it is also done in the format of Hebrew poetry. Once again, like so many of the Psalms, there's parallelism, there's emotive language, and there's this arc. We're going to talk about this arc, this rhythm, that's really very classic in any psalmic text. And it was written for a very specific reason, because we've all experienced pain or grief or seasons of abandonment, or you just name it, of just negative things. And it's interesting that it shows us that there is a spiritual rhythm to complaining. And maybe a better way to say it is there's a spiritual rhythm to complaining well, which we can do. And so what is that rhythm? And what is the point of the rhythm? And, the first two lines we got on lock, because that's the complaining part. But it's really the key thing that's going on there is that it's an expression of pain. It's complaining, but you're expressing what is hurting you. And that's the first beat. In this one, it's specific. It's a cry of abandonment. Like, the how long thing, it's repeated repeated 4 times in the psalm, because you get the vibe that, like, David, whoever wrote it, was like ghosted by God. Like, where are you at? And I think we all can resonate with that. And then this whole hide your face thing, where once again it's just communicating that this hide the face had to do a lot in the Hebrew tradition, like with blessing. And it's even more than God abandoning. It's God removing God's blessing from somebody and hiding God's face from the person. And I love how they end it with the one of his anguish or pain in my soul. You cannot get more emotive and expressive than that. It goes way beyond just, oh, my joints hurt. There's a physical, there's a spiritual agony that's going on in this abandonment. And so the first rhythm is pain, this expression of pain. But then in verses 3 and 4, it switches into a prayer, really. And specifically, it's a prayer, it's a plea for God to unghost God's self, to show up, to help. And I love how it's such a subtle thing that the psalmist is being very direct and demanding, because it's like, look at me, answer me. That's whenever you read, especially in the Old Testament, when it says, and I wish you could see it in the Greek, in the Aramaic, sometimes it'll repeat it twice, and that means, like, you better pay attention. This is like when someone says angry, and if it says angry, that means very angry. And so, in a lot of ways, when the psalmist is doing this, they are pretty much grabbing God by the robe, so to speak, and like shaking him, and it's like, hey, could you look at me, please? Say something, please. In a way, you was like, oh my gosh, you pray to God like, no, it's demanding, like, hey, I need you to see me, please. And I love how it says, like, give light to my eyes, and it's saying, hey, I want to feel better about this. I want to be restored. I want to, I just want to be restored. It's a nice way to saying, hey, could you fix this, please? But I love this part and this is the real big thing we got to pull from it, is no matter how demanding or desperate it was, it's still people talking to God after they feel God has abandoned them. And I love how this is not specific, it's not polite, but it's communicating. It's saying, hey, look at me, please. And the last bit is interesting. It's really interesting, and we often don't get there. There's a praise component to it, and it's the third beat. There's this turn, so to speak, into trust, and really into hope. Like one of my favorite words, one of my most favorite Hebrew words is, and I won't pronounce it right because it's got to come from the back of your throat. It's hesed, and it means loving kindness, steadfast love. But that's what's clear is happening when I trust in your love. My heart rejoices in the deliverance you bring. And I love that because in other translations, I will sing. It's not only expressing trust of like, hey, I know you're going to answer this. I know you're going to fix this. And I know I will sing one day. So it's also hope at the same time. And I love this part, and maybe this is the most important part, is that it's such a beautiful expression of faith, really. That faith, in a lot of ways, it's not a feeling at all. It's a choice. It's a decision to trust and have hope, even when you don't feel like it. Even when you don't feel like you need to feel like it, it's still there. Another beautiful part is like with many lament psalms, it ends in praise, but it never says it's resolved. It never tells you that it gets resolved. But I love how it's all a part of the healing process. It's all a part of becoming whole again. And this little 6-line psalm teaches us so much, really about the power complaining can have, good complaining. And really, it's the point of complaining. And it gives us permission and acknowledges that it's okay to feel abandoned by God. It's okay. It's not okay, but it's also okay. That prayer doesn't have to be polite at all. It just has to happen, no matter how you can do it. And then once again, the same beat I almost always come to in some way, shape, or form is the fact that trust and hope, it's a choice. It's a choice that we can make. And really, that's the beauty of complaining. And maybe one way to remember it, to help us not sit around the campfire or not just be a broken record, is remembering that real complaint can make room for real hope. That's the thing we have to remember, is there's a point to complaining. I've always been amazed, and I continue to be almost, in many cases, sometimes daily, at least weekly, how the wisdom, the patterns, the rhythms that show up in this book that we read, like this library that was put together by an ancient Near Eastern culture, like over the course of 6,000+ years, that more and more of it just is affirmed or acknowledged and expanded upon by science. Particularly for this one, modern psychology and therapy. And so I'm going to mix that in with something that's practical about how we can move through complaining and complaining well. And how not only can it give our friends a break, but bring us hope and make a way for us to be healed through whatever we're going through. And I think the first one's pretty evident. It's you got to name it. You got to speak your complaint. We're good at that part, really good at that part. But this is the part where, yes, you can talk to your friend or your family or someone you're close to, and you trust. You got to trust the person. But I think sometimes we forget that we can do this with God. In a lot of ways, better and more freely and open than we can with our human people in our life. But you got to share the pain honestly with no filter. Now, it's like in scientific terms, in psychological and therapeutic terms, that's affect labeling. It's becoming emotionally aware. Because when we name our emotions, it activates different parts of our brain. The prefrontal cortex, where we really exist. All of the beauty that is you exists up here, right here in the front. And when we start naming these emotions and thinking about them, this moves our emotions from the amygdala, which is the part that was from the very beginning, the lizard brain, where all of our fear and everything is at, and it moves us to the front, where we can think and we can reason. And in the process, that reduces the intensity of what we're feeling and helps us cope with it better. And it really does away, there's actually a whole thing called spiritual bypass and bypassing when we suppress our emotions, the anxiety, depression, stress, all of that just goes up. In fact, you need to let it out in order to reduce those feelings. And all of this helps regulate all of your emotions. So you got to name it, because you can't heal what you don't name. The second thing is, you would think, wait a minute, did you just say this? But it's say it. And you're like, wait a minute, isn't that the same as name it? No, it's not. It's not. This is where the part where you ask for help. Now that's going to be hard for a lot of people. I know it'd be hard. It's hard for me. You ask for help. Once again, you can ask the people in your life, and please do. But don't forget about God. I know everybody has different feelings about prayer, but you got to ask. You got to say, hey, and you could be as blunt as David was, where you're just like, grab God by the collar and be like, hey, listen. Or if you want to be all flowery in poetry, you can do that too. But you got to ask. It can be general, it can be specific, it doesn't matter. Now, this is all rooted in cognitive reframing, solution-focused therapy, because when you ask for help, it actually is not making you more passive. It removes you from that. It actually makes you an active agent. It gives you power in the weirdest way. Being vulnerable gives you power and helps you feel less vulnerable when you ask for help. It emphasizes not just sitting and letting the roof drip on your head. You're like, okay, I need some help. I don't know what, I don't know how, I don't know who, but I need help. And it gives you steps forward, at least one, to get out of there. And it starts to that process of giving hope. Because when you say it, that's when the healing starts, but you can't heal what you don't hand over to people and to God. And the last one's probably the toughest, but hopefully the first and second one starts priming the pump, and then just trust it. You know, once again, you have to trust that there's hope. You can do it through people, but this is actually the one I think is more exclusively for God. Because people can do a lot of things. God can tend to do more. And once again, this is rooted in science, narrative therapy, resilient psychotherapy. When you start trusting, it's once again your power of saying, okay, wait a minute, I feel abandoned, but I'm not abandoned. I'm just waiting. maybe. It helps, in a way, find healthy purpose to the pain that you're feeling. Not try to bypass it, but say, okay, how can I grow from this and trust that I can be better on the other side of it. And it just helps with your perseverance and your resilience of moving forward. Once again, the second and third one just really build off of each other. And I know one of the best things, the trusted part, and the thing that I do think is somewhat unique in Christianity is that we have to realize that the worst thing that ever happened to us is never the last thing that's going to happen to us. And that's really true for everybody. And that gives us trust, and it gives us hope. But you see how deep this song, 6 lines, and it touches on complaining and hope, and it digs deep into psychological and developmental therapies, and really, just to throw out another buzzword, this is really what we call nowadays is modern trauma-informed care. Is really what it is, and it's showing us that complaining, lament, it's not toxic at all. It can be, but not with this pattern. It's actually healthy grief work. It's very healthy. And hope and trust isn't something that's naive. It's actually an honest expression, an honest result when you honestly engage your pain and share it. And I think the big thing I've always said is, and this is just for you and for me, there's nobody else that can make us realize this, is like, this is our choice. This is a choice that we can make of how we complain and ultimately how we can have hope. Because real complaint can make room for real hope. So let's take a couple of minutes, and hey, if you want to take 2 minutes you can listen to God, or you can just give it to him. So whatever you need, wherever the Spirit's leading you, let's take a couple minutes and we'll continue with our time together.
Receive this benediction. May you go now with the courage to be honest, to bring your complaint, your pain, and your questions. And as you do, may you discover that real complaint can make space for real hope, and a hope that rises even in the waiting. So go in honesty, go in hope, and go in peace. Have a great week. Amen.